one of the big challenges is how you build community in. I think that's one of the really interesting ones, because I spent quite a lot of time in Russia and in Belarus. I was in Belarus a couple of years ago, and what really surprised me there was you've got this Soviet tower blocks which look awful. You know, as soon as I arrived, I thought I was going to get stabbed. You know, incredibly sort of dodgy. But actually, when you get up in the morning and went for a walk, there's people everywhere. It has like a totally different sense of community. You come out of the buildings and there's sort of all the grandmas sat there outside on the steps having a chat in the morning, going, "Oh, who's that guy?" You know, gossiping away. There's kids playing in the street. There's sort of, but the streets between the buildings are significantly landscaped, not well. A lot of it's very old and sort of dilapidated and run down, not really looked after properly. But they still have a lot of that kind of landscape. There's limited cars there in those areas. They have very, very limited parking. And they have to rely on sort of buses and trains and things. And that's been there for a very long time. But they seem to have got something right about the community side. And there seems to be that very strong sort of community of the kids all go outside and play together, and the older family members are there as well, keeping an eye on them, and everyone's kind of in this, you know, more of a hub, as you say. And it's quite interesting when you see that. I don't know if it's just because of the density of people or not, but that it definitely is very different to the feel you get in a lot of sort of housing estates and places in this country.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess they've probably got more, in a way, deprivation than we have. In a way, sometimes when you do have a really hard time, it brings people together, a little bit like COVID. The community kind of really fosters and people start to look after each other a little bit more. Whereas we're in quite a privileged society in much of the UK, where it's more about what car you've got in your driveway or what your house looks like.
But COVID has changed that perception, I think. And I think, you know, last year in particular, when there was, you know, the deep lockdown that we had, and the community spirit that I think was kind of came across the nation, really, that recognition in wanting to keep that going, I think in terms of placemaking terms and what we do, is therefore becoming even greater, and a greater understanding from locals as well, so that when we now go forward and we'll be doing consultation on things, they will have a greater appreciation for it, and they'll want it more because they've kind of seen that side of it. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's what's really interesting about this point in time is it's kind of coming from all sides. So you've kind of got the climate change thing. We know we need to green cities and make them healthier and all this type of thing. Then there's the health side, where you've got the NHS looking at like preventative health care and lots of evidence around, you know, air pollution and reduction in that, and flooding, all of those type of things. But then you've also got this sort of societal issues, and people know that we need to build better communities, and you know, you see it in sort of the crime in London. A lot of that has gone back to a lack of sort of community funding, community policing, and all that type of thing. So all of it is kind of shifting around to this kind of, we've got to rethink the environment in which we live in, and it totally makes sense. If you've got a bad environment to live in, you're going to be disgruntled, angry. You're going to have more various issues. Whereas if you're in a much nicer place to live, then you've got much more chance to engage and do more.